Okay, a very good evening to all of you. Okay, I think I'll just take a minute. I think people online are also getting settled. People online, if you're able to hear and watch, just let me know. Now, this is going to be a short interactive session. I think all of you are preparing for 2027. Is it correct? And of course, all of you have the political science optional. So I'll be talking to you about, for example, today is the last day of July, right? Which means we're left with how many months? Yeah, so of course, for this year, you have August, September, October, November, December. So any student which I'm meeting generally is asking me a question that how should I navigate this? Now, some of you may also be preparing or would be preparing for a state exam if that is going to happen. And most of you have to give UPSC, right? Some of you are, I think, already doing your Vajra classes. So now you also want to know, for example, how do you also navigate political science as an optional? Fine. So if you have your doubts, you can have it ready. I will also take up your doubts. Right. In the meanwhile, I think the people who are watching this online will settle in. Okay. So Anju, Shweta, Shruti, all of you, a very good evening. Right. So again, this is an open session. Some students who are watching this are from Brahmastra. Some of you may be directly watching this on YouTube. Right. So the idea and the agenda for all of us is one, that how to navigate political science. Fine. Now, I just want to know how many of you have completed your foundation. You can raise your hand. And how many of you foundation is going on? Foundation is going on? You've done it? Achha, but you have an idea of the subject. Okay. So also for the people who are watching this online, I just want to know how many of you are done with your foundation? Because I know I will have two sets of students. Some of you maybe have some of the classes still going on. Okay. Some of that, and I think we already had a word, right? Yeah. The paper one wala part ho chuka hai aapka. Fine. That's also fine. Okay. So here I'll be addressing two sets of students. One who have some part of foundation pending, and one who have already done their foundation. Okay. Now, the session name, as you see, is the way ahead for 2027. The aim is to give you clarity on how should you approach the optional. You have 5 months remaining. That's a lot of time, but also, it's a lot of time to waste. Things that have not been given priority will be wasted. Now, I would like to start this session with a quote many of you would have written in your notes. How many of you can identify with this quote? The philosophers have only interpreted the word. The point, however, is to change it. Whose quote? Karl Marx. Now, I would want to bring this quote in a more practical sense. I will say we have only read our notes, but the real challenge is to write. Optional is 500 marks, right? So many of us have the habit of only reading. We know all the scholars, we know their works, their philosophy, but when it comes to writing, how many of you honestly face a challenge when it comes to writing? I think many of you have raised your hand, right? So this is again where that even when you've done the foundation, how should we be moving forward? So that number one, you are clear with the concepts. Second, you are able to articulate your thoughts very well. Articulation, like we'll see, is a long-term exercise. Fine. So this is a quote I have talked about, and again, anything which strikes you is of relevance to you, you can just write it down. Of course, this is not a class wherein this is a proper lecture, but anything which you feel is of value, you can note it down, because then it helps you in memory. Now, before I move ahead with my session, I would want to crowdsource, because like I have said, this is an open session. Any doubts that you have, okay, I'll give you some time. People online can simply type your doubts. I will write all your doubts also. And again, by the end of the session, we'll see that we have answered all the doubts. Okay. I can start from you if you have a doubt. Okay. So when very asked doubt is, first is linking of current affairs, which means you're done with this good static part, which means either in 1B or in paper 2, this part is a challenge, linking of current affairs, which also means how should we do current affairs is a problem. And if I've done the current affairs, how do I integrate theory and write an answer on that? So this is a multi-layered question. तो आपने एक क्वेश्चन में यू आस्क्ड मल्टीपल क्वेश्चंस, फाइन. डू यू हैव एनी स्पेसिफिक डाउट? यू आर सेइंग यू आर नॉट एबल टू रिकॉल एवरी स्कॉलर. Is that asked? चलो ठीक है, not recall every scholar. Fine, 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 fine. I get your point. The issue is recall. Fine. Any other issue? You have a base in the optional. Bachelor's you've done, right? Right. Okay. So which makes it very difficult to revise, and as a consequence, you are not writing enough. Is that it? Acha. Which reminds me of a quote we have just seen. Right? We have only interpreted the word, now it is to change it. Fine. Fair point. आपका issue कोई? It's a big optional, of course, coverage of syllabus. Okay, fine. It's a extension of answer writing only, so I'm writing articulation challenges. Now, Abhishek, हाँ. Paper specifically 1B. 1B में what is the challenge? That how do you differentiate 1B with GS2 polity? Okay, fine. Next, consolidation, right? Okay. Right, and another issue that you've said, so I'm putting 1 plus to that, which means this is an often asked topic. Push. Revision, have we written revision? But so I'll write it separately. Recall scholars, but I'll write revision separately. This will be a very much asked topic. And so while answer writing, the issue is framing, and of course if the issue is framing, then the writing of the answer is a challenge, right? Is it specific to any section, or is it seen in all the sections? ठीक है, ठीक है. And here also the point is, see, whenever we have a problem in management, there's an advice. Whatever problem you face, you ask a why, and 5 whys will give you the root cause. Sometimes you don't have to go into the 5 whys only. Okay. So for example, if you have an issue in framing, it could possibly be that maybe that topic you are not very well aware of. Okay. If you are aware, then maybe you have not revised it. If you have revised it, but maybe a new dimension is asked and you are not able to retrieve it altogether. So there can be multiple reasons to it. Fine. I'll also look at the people who are watching this online. Ujjwal, okay. Acha, so that is also a good thing. Okay, daily. Okay, 1 second. People online also, I'm seeing all your doubts, so I'll be taking it up, which means, okay, so you have done your foundation, Yarka, but the issue is you don't know how to write in, where to start from. Fair point. Paper 2 is left. How to link current affairs? Ujjwal, I think your point has been taken up already. How to use foundation note to static knowledge? Fine. Answer writing का structure क्या होगा? Okay, fair point. Daily writing versus weekly test balance. Revision methodology to use ways to recall. I think all of you have become scientists, political scientists. Just like in comparative politics, we have methods. So people are saying, what is the best methodology? We'll discuss that also. Where to write, where to start answer writing from? Fair question. Should we write in paragraph or in headings or subheadings? Okay. This is often a point I also get. Para, headings. All of this, of course, I can say this is more related to, this is also answer writing. This is also the frequency of answer writing. Answer writing. Answer writing. Okay. Answer writing. So almost I think half of the doubts are related to answer writing. We'll go one by one. Fine. So I think I've captured most of the doubts that the people have. Okay. Structure of the answer, I'll take up a couple of questions. If anybody gives me a question in the class, either I'll take it up or I'll just maybe directly put a question forward and I'll just basically discuss the structure of that also. Fine. Okay, fine. So let us now move ahead. I've had a basic list of questions. And again, people who are joining in slightly late, no issue. You just mention your query if your query has not been taken up yet. Okay. Because when I end it, I will make sure that at least all the questions, because you are spending a precious time. Okay. So it should be worth your time. Fine. Now, main cheez hai, your timelines must be very clear in your mind. Okay. Timeline is, today is the last day of July. Like I said, most of you are going to transition to pre. And when I say most of you, of course, 99% of you are going to transition just after December, right? And why is that? Of course, uncertainty around prelims, revision, many things are there. So nobody would want to keep prelims uncertain. There will be some exceptions, people who have given the interview who are very confident, for example, they sometimes stress, they read in the, let's say January also, mid of February also. Now that depends on your comfort level. My general advice, normally even to the forest service aspirants, I say, prelims is the most dicey stage. So for prelims, you should over prepare and you should give yourself more time. Why? Because like a battlefield, think of like a, let's say, military general. Ho sakta hai for 10 days, you may fall sick and you have not accounted that. Something happens in your house, in your neighborhood, right? So there can be some uncertainty. So if you feel you need 4 months, my advice is take 1 month extra. Okay, so that your revisions, all of that will be taken care of, right? Those of you who are a part of Brahmas, the program is designed in such a manner that all of these things are taken care of. Prelims timely start hoga, back to back your long classes will happen, etc. That is going to happen, right? Other people who are watching this may take some cues from the points I'm telling you. That first point I want to tell you is prelims should never be compromised. Simple fact kya hai? You will only get to write mains when you write prelims. Okay, and sometimes we get very adventurous. Ki nahi, let us do more mains. One doubt often comes in your mind, sir, what if I clear prelims and I not able to clear the mains? But my question is, first let's clear the prelims. Fine. So in prelims, we will have slightly conservative approach in the time that we give to ourselves, which means take more time than what is needed. First point. Second, I want to again ask from you, have you people, I know some of you who have done some writing practice in some classes with me in the last 2 months, but other people, after prelims, or let's say in the last 2 months, have you been active in political science or have you been consistent in your studies? And you have to be honest. You are seeing some classes, you are doing your part, huh? Okay, चलो आपका तो मुझे already पता, you are attending classes. बाकी लोग ठीक है, एकदम ही नहीं पढ़ रहे, या पता है एक optional होता है हमारा, but the optional is not getting enough time. What is the status? I think some of you were also occupied with BPSC. I am aware of that also. Next, any without abhi, have you been able to spare some time? Nahi. Okay. Dekho, one thing is, time is very crucial, and it is the time we are fighting for. Okay. Goes without saying, I have to again tell you and re-emphasize the point to you that optional is worth how many marks? And of course, we also know relative marks in optional is easier as compared to GS. In GS, people celebrate if somebody is getting 400 plus. How much percentage is this? 4 papers. Really? 40%. In an optional, people will easily cross 250, but people can also go to, and even, how much is 250 percentage wise? And each mark is a threshold. Of course, PSIR we know is a very popular optional. Back to back, many toppers have come. But also know most of the students will be doing the same thing, right? They are doing the same notes. So if you have to create a difference, you have to be very much, let's say you have to be very solid in your revisions. You should be know how to replicate things. And this word replicate, I will be using at least 10 times today. Right? For me, a student, for example, who has read 10 sources, not very impressive. Even if you have read only a small paragraph from a very simple source, but if you are able to replicate that, you have a higher chances of clearing and scoring more marks. Sometimes you often ask the question, sir, what is the difference between 300, 280 and 250? The main difference is replication. How do you replicate? It means more revision is needed. So don't study too much. And this is something that you will realize sometimes later on. Are we able to replicate it? Sometimes on India, US, I've seen students, 15, 17 scholars they have written. Scholars are not like a mala, for example, for you to wear. If somebody has read 3 or 4 scholars, but they are able to bring it exactly in the answer as per the demand, who will get more marks, you tell me? That person only, right? So it is not the content. And in this age of 2026, I will tell you, there is no shortage of content. Content का issue ही नहीं है. Issue is, are we able to understand it? And more importantly, are we able to link it and write it in the answer? You may think that you know theories of state very well. But if I give you a question right now, let's say neoliberal theory of state, and when I show you answers 30 minutes later, आप कहोगे सर मैंने लिखा ही नहीं है. The reason is, what you know versus what you write, there is always a gap. So 2 things I've told you till now. One is replication. Are we able to replicate something? And second is, we want to bridge the gap. What I know versus what I write. You will always face a gap. You know, let's say India, Pakistan very well. Intellectually you know it. But when it comes to writing, like you had mentioned, pointed out, point I nahi rahe, that relevant keyword you're not able to bring it, and then you write a very average answer. An average answer or mediocrity will not get you the marks, because again, please remember, this is an optional where you have a lot of people writing the same content. You are rewarded more marks. We have seen sometimes people get very high marks in optional. In optionals, you have relative marking and scaling. In maths, in PSIR, in sociology, in anthro. But it will only benefit you if you are putting the right effort, right? So, again, just to re-emphasize that optional is important, first thing. Second thing to emphasize to you is time. This is my advice in one line. Begin with the end in mind. What is my end? You are writing mains. To write a good answer in mains, should you have short notes? Right? So that means this philosophy will guide my approach. And this is again an approach I always emphasize in the classes that I take. So what is the meaning of this? Meaning is, you have done your PSIR foundation. It can be from any institute, Telegram, IGNU, कोई भी source है आपने. You've done it. You've read it. This is not enough. Doing foundation or having notes is not enough, right? Because the issue is, maybe this is 6 registers. For some, it is 10 registers. And even after this, many linkages of PYQ may be missing. And you will only get to know when you again re-audit your notes and see it with the PYQs. Today only, I think we were having a class of India, Japan. And India, Japan, and you can write it maybe somewhere. UPSC has asked you this question. 15 marks, acquisition cross service agreement. This is a question of PSIR. And just revisit your foundation notes and see if this is there in it or not. Nahi hai, what does it mean? You have to update your notes. Note making is always not a one-way, it's a two-way process. Whatever source you have had, it could be, let's say somebody has a base in the optional. Okay? You've read very good books. But please, you have to align it with what? PYQs. So one thing is, you have PSIR foundation notes. It can be any registers. It has to be what? PYQ line. This is your step 2. This you have to do. What is to be done here? Let's say I have done Plato. I have revised my foundation notes on Plato. Fine. Now I will go through at least, I will say, 10 years of PYQs. In WPT, IPT, you can even go farther, 20, 25 years. Why? Some 25 years back, UPSC asked, state is individual writ large. Now this can again come. But for certain topics, if they are very much diverse, paper 2, something that was asked in then current affairs will not be very relevant right now, but thinkers will be relevant. So I will have to check whether my notes, for example, have the relevant PYQs or not. If they have it, excellent. If they don't have it, I have to add it. I will give you some outliers. Can anybody tell me this concept is from which topic? This is the UPSC PYQ. सिर्फ इतना पूछा था एज अ 10 मार्कर, रेवोल्यूशन इन परमानेंस, दैट्स इट. People online. Hmm? Marks. Which topic of the syllabus? Ideology. In which ideology? Okay. Anybody wants to take a guess? Chalo, your friends have given the right answer. This is a topic under ideology, and that too under socialism. Any idea who had said this? The answer is Trotsky. Trotsky. Now, this was a tougher question of those times. But if I have to go back to my foundation note and I have to see whether this is there, if it is not there, no issue, take an A4 sheet, staple it, add it. Which means what? Note updation is a two-way process. Many times you've done the foundation notes, and again, what I'm saying, sometimes excessive, unnecessary details that are not needed. Sometimes the background of a thinker may be over expanded, not needed, you have to trim it. So what I'm saying is, you have your notes. Right now, the first step, what I'm saying is, see whether it is aligned as per previous year questions. Which means, what should you have? Topic based previous year questions. Let's say the topic is feminism as an ideology. Few years back, UPSC asked a question, personal is political. That's a direct question there. But UPSC has also asked you ecofeminism linked to Vandana Shiva, for example. UPSC has asked you comparison of radical and liberal feminism. That is also there. So I need to see whether all these dimensions are there or not. Last year, UPSC gave a shocker in paper 2A. Red lipstick movement. Many people were not aware. Questions like psychological and interpretative approach in comparative politics. I'm telling you, it will not be in the notes. But these are bouncer questions. And I'm not saying that it has to be. Some questions sometimes are bouncers. But what should we do? We can update it. So one thing you will do is PYQ aligned. Second or third step is a very important step. This is where most of you run from. Short notes. Now you will say, sir, how short are short notes? What should be there in short notes? And we have to deconstruct and demystify this as well. Fine. Now, if you look at any foundation notes, for example, they will be descriptive in nature. Main idea will be so that you understand the concept. Fine. Now, when I say short notes, there can be two ways to make it. Some of you who have a dispersed way of reading and thinking, you will do better when you make mind maps. And some of you who have a linear way that you write line by line, you can make small keyword line by notes. This you have to see what you like. Now, I will give you an idea of how to make a short note. For example, give me any topic that comes to your mind on the spot. Liberalism, chalo. If I have to make a quick mind map of liberalism, first of all, liberalism is a topic under ideologies. Ab dekho, my mind map should cover the entire subject in one page. What is the easiest way to do it? See the outline and make it as per the outline, which means when you are making short notes, have the outline. Outline is nothing but the headings and the subheadings you have in that topic. Now, how will I make? I should have a good definition of what is liberalism, right? Second, I should know the evolution of liberalism. Now, when I'm doing the evolution, I should know there is classical liberalism, there is positive liberalism, there's neoliberalism, and all these three have been asked in the exam, by the way. Now, merely writing this is not enough, because I need to know, first of all, who are the scholars in each. Perhaps Adam Smith here, T.H. Green here, Nozick, Hayek here. So scholars, their key ideas, I should be having an idea about. That is a quick way to revise it. Then we have had questions. The PYQs can directly become a question. For example, this is a UPSC PYQ. Liberalism as a revolutionary idea. This question was asked. Now, this was asked as a 20 marker. what I can do here, basic 5 or 6 reasons why this was a revolutionary idea. If I just write that, my thing is I'll be able to expand on it. Yes. If I'm not able to expand on it, I will again go back to my base notes. The litmus test for you that whether you know your short notes in and out is see the short notes, and right now this is just a skeleton. You may have to go 1 or 2 steps beyond. For me, this is good enough to explain. It may not be good enough for you, which means you may have to make it slightly more detailed also. I'll tell you both ways. One is a mind map way, and second is a linear way how to do that. Fine, right? Then, for example, in liberalism, this question has also been asked: challenges liberalism faces. Now, challenges which it faces are within liberalism, and challenges can also be from outside. जैसे कि बहुत पॉपुलर आपने सुना होगा, who talk about Clash of Civilizations? Samuel P. Huntington. Okay. Now, like this, I can make an overall idea, and challenges are nothing but my criticism, overall contribution of liberalism, or I can talk about the contemporary relevance. Broadly speaking, anything that I've missed, I will see the PYQs and I will add that as a dimension. Yes or no? Now, this is a very much bird's eye view which I've done. If somebody finds this good, you may try to use it. Now, some of you may be thinking this is very divergent. उसके लिए क्या कर सकते हो? You know 1, 2, 3. You know in which sequence you have to see your mind map. Fine, that is one way. Second way to do the same thing that I've done is, let's say you have divided your page into 2 halves. This is liberalism. Fine. You will write the definition. Some of you like this. Okay. Now, evolution. First school, let's say classical. And please make sure most of them are keywords which you are able to understand. Second one, something like this. And similarly, you have done, let's say, the criticism. You have expanded on the contribution. Things that are relevant. How would you know what is relevant? PYQs. And this is the process you have to live by. And this process, I'm not saying just for PSIR, this is a process. You have anthropology, you have sociology. This is the process that will give fruits. Humanities optional में every year आप हर साल उठाइए paper. You see the PYQs, you will see at least I'm saying 50 to 60% repetition. If I only say paper 1 है, उसमें और ज़्यादा है. 1B में there is some element of current affairs. And paper 2, of course, there is current affairs. I would agree with you. But paper 1A is highly static. Paper 1B, many dimensions are highly static. Why don't we get marks on it? So this is something you have to do, which means I have to see whether my notes are PYQ aligned. Second, I will have to shorten it. Now, some of you say, sir, should I take notes or should I see notes of any topper? You can, of course. Some of you would have referred to Utkarsh Dwivedi sir's notes. Very popular. Okay. Some of you, there are some toppers, you know, Evernote share kar rakha hai. I think Arvind sir is their rank 123 if I'm not wrong. So there are 4 or 5 toppers who have tried to do the same thing. Now what you can do, again my advice is, if you are a working candidate, if you are having very less time, follow the topper's notes and you make your own additions to it. Because there is, if let's say the notes are of 2021, 22, 23, आपको पिछले 2-3 साल तो update करना पड़ेगा. You have to update that. However, if you have time, the note making that you do with your own hand sticks with you. Right? Again, borrowing from Karl Marx, whatever effort we put into our work, we feel very much, let's say, closely associated with it. So that is something that you can do. Right? And you will then get a lot of confidence from that. और notes कैसे होंगे आपके? Mostly based on the PYQs. The coverage that should be there. And it should be in a manner that it should have a decent introduction. For example, I should be able to define liberalism in a way I can replicate it. No issue. मैंने सबसे tough Epstein या let's say very different scholar. I've taken the toughest definition. I'm not able to write it. What is the use of it? I'm not making notes to impress someone. I'm making notes to get the maximum marks as possible. And there are many toppers. If you see their answers, if you look at Tina Davi's copy, you will see the simplicity of the answers and yet very high marks. There have been some people who quote too many and sometimes you get कि sir मैं कैसे लिखूंगा ऐसे, right? And you get a huge shock and then you stop reading as such. But my point is, first you have to know your base. don't directly copy somebody's writing style. You can see their notes, but when you internalize them, see, internalizing will take time. मैं आपको किसी के भी notes दूं, unless you have revised it 3 or 4 times, you will not be able to replicate. You may be familiar with it. And the tougher thing with optional is, yes, sab kuch, everything you have to write. Now, again, the question is, how much time should we have for this? Kitna time lagaye? You have 5 months with you, which means you should give yourself only 4 months. 1 month is buffer. Our idea is August, September, October, November. Take 1 month for one paper, right? For example, paper 1, section A. It should be divided, it should be done in 1 month and not more than that. Which means you have to not only read your foundation notes, see whether they are PYQ aligned. Any PYQ that is missing, first of all, should be ticked. And you should know, bhai, some PYQs have multiple linkages, right? 2 or 3 days back, somebody came and asked me, so there was a question in 2025. The question was Karl Popper as an enemy of open society. Now, I'll ask you the same question. So where should I put this question? Under which head of the syllabus? Batao. This question is also for the people watching online. ये कहाँ पे लिंक करोगे बताओ, इतना मुश्किल है क्या? हाँ, यूजिंग आइडियोलॉजी, चलो मॉडर्न डेमोक्रेसी, बट वेयर इज दिस टॉपिक, कहाँ पे है ये? WPT में कहाँ पे लिखा है मॉडर्न डेमोक्रेसी? प्लेटो, theories of state. Now, this is the best question. After asking a question, see, my question is, this year there was a topic, Karl Popper as an enemy of open society. Under which syllabus head should it go? Answer multiple भी हो सकता है. Take a guess. You don't have to be scared. Plato, ठीक है. Anybody else? So Plato is not incorrect. But can I say this also is related to liberalism? Liberalism will talk about what? Openness. And Karl Popper was an enemy of open society. So in this, most of you would have done Karl Popper when you are doing Plato. That is correct. You can put that in Plato. But it can also be connected to ideology as well. Because Karl Popper is an interwar intellectual who has a liberal bias to himself. And he will look at Plato and he will criticize him for excessive unification and putting philosopher king above everybody else. Right? So again, the question is, this you exercise will only come to you when you go back and see your notes, which is why PYQs will be very important. Okay? Ek cheez. Are you getting some idea on how to consolidate? And please remember, this is again a work in progress. Right? Sometimes make a draft sheet out of it. Okay? And for some time, in case you want my assistance, आप मुझे draft sheet show भी कर सकते हो. There are many people who will send me a screenshot. Sir, is this fine? I will say नहीं. Add these 2 notes also, because this is also covered. Your notes are done. एक बार, the moment you cover the structure of any topic, you yourself will feel very confident about it. Right? So you were wanting to ask, yeah. No, PYQ aligning simply means we will have to go. There are topic wise compilations sometimes there, right? उसी से देखना है आपको. You have to see that and see. If your notes are able to. Right now, I am not assuming you know the content. अगर वो dimension नहीं है, you just have to keep on ticking that PYQ. Very simple exercise. Okay? Right, हाँ, absolutely. Okay? Coming back, I think we are able to somehow understand. Now see, this exercise will take some time, but it cannot take infinite time. So till now, I think I've told you your time. Okay, I was here. Short notes, having the outline, having the coverage of PYQs. हाँ. हम तो यही कर रहे हैं. आपके लिए आसान है, ठीक है. आगे. So, and I'll also, people who are new, I'll also tell you what are we doing here. चलो, short notes पे clarity आई यहाँ पे. Now, the moment this gets done, your revisions will now be very fast. Because earlier the issue is this big bulky foundation notes. Some of you may have not seen it for the 6 months, 1 month, 1 year, 2 years. And the issue is you directly want to jump to this, but you have to go through a process, PYQs and making the short notes. Short notes, if you want to take assistance of toppers, you are free to do so, right? Ultimately, your notes should be able to answer the questions as simple as that. Yes or no? Now revisions, okay? You have revised your notes. Now we are going for answer writing, fine? Answer writing may be, many of you say, sir, kahan se, where do I begin? Best thing is, we say charity begins at home. Start from wherever you are. So for example, if I have just made short notes of WPT, WPT for us is Western political thought. I've already done this, I've done the PYQs, I've done the short notes revision. ये हमने कर लिया सब कुछ. Now I will just start, let's say with Plato. I take just single one question. Okay, and you have to judge yourself whether you are able to replicate of what you know. And remember, this will be a time-taking exercise. Many of us don't reach to this stage. If we reach, we don't have enough patience. We want the best answer at one go. And immediately when you write your first answer, you automatically compare it to rank 1 or rank 15. And you don't know whether this was their 5th attempt, 4th attempt, they had a background, they would have written 4,000, 2,000, 5,000 answers. You don't know. आपने सीधे compare किया. And of course, comparison is the thief of joy. And you feel there is so much to do, I don't have enough time, maybe I don't know enough, and then all the self-doubt starts to creep in and you abandon the whole process. Now, when you start to write, and this is also where I will now start to take up some of the questions that have been said, is that what makes a good answer? There is no perfect answer in PSIR. So when I'm talking of answer writing should go after some stages. Directly don't jump into answer writing just because you think you have an idea. First go through this, your short notes and PYQ aligning, and I'll tell you and I'll link it. When I'm doing answer writing, okay, first thing, some of you have asked you, sir, what is the structure of an answer? Structure mein hota kya hai? Broadly speaking, the structure has introduction, it has a body, it has a conclusion, but in PSIR, we will go one step ahead. I will tell you one of the structures which we commonly use. 5 C's. Okay. First is, and not all the 5 C's will be operational at once, but at least 3 or 4 of them will work. Context, content, comparison, criticism, contemporary, or contribution. Something of this sort will help, and I will give you almost a live example to prove it. We have a topic in theories of state. And the topic, for example, let's say a question is neoliberal theory of state. Okay? How many of you have heard that this is the topic in the syllabus? There is a neoliberal theory of state. Fine. Now, let me try to apply some of what I have just seen. Okay. So, for example, what is the context of neoliberal theory of state? People at the back, 1 second. We are having a class here, right? So you can focus or you can leave, totally depends. Fine. Now, the context of this is the crisis or the failure of the welfare state, right? And this context can be seen in Thatcherism, Reaganomics. In case you have not revised it, no issues, but I'm just telling you, when you will read this topic, you will get to know that neoliberal theory of state became popular because of the crisis and legitimation crisis faced by welfare state. What is a welfare state? Welfare state will try to go for austerity, social justice, and also will say, I will give you liberty, both things. And these two are very difficult principles to balance. If you go for austerity, justice, you have to spend more money, you will have more fiscal deficit, which means private companies will crowd, they will try to move away. Context is clear to us. When I say the content, this is where your knowledge of your notes, which means I have to talk here about the thinkers. Who are the thinkers in neoliberal theory? Okay, Milton Friedman, etc. Can I compare this? It is similar to classical liberalism. Now, this comparison is actually a lot of value in political science. Compare, for example, how many of you know social contract? You know social contract? If there's a question on Hobbes, a good practice is to compare it to Locke. If a question is on Gandhi, compare it to Ambedkar. Question is on Kautilya, compare it to Arthashastra. This is something that you do. Question is on realism, compare it to any other school, for example, Marxist school, liberal institutionalist school. So comparison is and it shows the examiner that you don't just know the topic, you're able to compare it to different schools of thought. Comparison is there. Now the essence of humanities and even your optional is having this criticism. Every theory, howsoever good it is, will be criticized. For example, the theory, this neoliberal theory, why will it be criticized? This theory says, in fact, in the content we will be writing, it talks about market fundamentalism. That market is fundamental, right? State should not do redistribution. So the criticism of this theory is it will lead to very huge inequality. If I say it leads to inequality, that is correct. But a better way is I can talk about a Marxist critique. Like people like Thomas Piketty argue that it leads to increased inequality. And Thomas Piketty many times is known as the modern Marx. Okay, this is a criticism. And overall, I can talk about the last C. What is that? Contemporary or the contribution. Overall, that this theory gives me another way to look at the state. It improves the academic understanding, more nuance to the state. I have built my answer around this. Now, this frameworks will differ, right? Because again, I am also not a huge fan of templates for everything. In optional, many times the context changes and the answer also changes. If I know the topic well, if I know the broad dimensions of the topic, I'll be able to understand that. Fine. And this will come with practice. This is perhaps the easiest question I've taken. Neoliberal theory of state. There have been slightly tougher questions. अब tough कैसे होगा question? You know theories of state. Slightly tougher question is compare any two theories. Let's say liberal versus Marxist. Now you need another way to write it. You need to know certain 4 or 5 parameters. If you have to see which scholars are there, what is the context, what is their idea of a state, the origin of the state, for example, what values they talk about, what is the criticism both of them have, then you will write an answer to this. So the question demand, the answer demand changes on the range of question. And this is something that you will have to practice. Okay, again remember, there are different ways to write an answer. Broadly speaking, you will have an introduction and a conclusion, but in between you will have a body, and more specifically I add, you should have criticism. अब मैंने तो बोल दिया criticism होना चाहिए, but now you have to revisit your notes. Many times when people do classes of, let's say, Ambedkar or Aurobindo Ghosh, they don't have a very strong critique. The notes may be missing that. Gramsci. Can anybody tell me critique of Gramsci? Critique of Karl Marx, you can tell me, I know. What is the critique of Gramsci? सुना है Gramsci? He or she? चलो फिर ठीक है. Okay, Gramsci is talking about what? What makes him so special? Hegemony, many of you said, right? So what will be a criticism of Gramsci? Maybe take this thought in your mind. Okay? आप दोनों को तो आना चाहिए. You have done it with me. So I'll give you a hint. Srinati. So Srinati is one of the people who criticized. If you don't know the person, does not matter. On what ground is he getting criticized? Hegemony is the theory, but why is he getting criticized? A very simple way is he overemphasizes the superstructure. Second, he still remains Marxist at heart. So when Marx is criticized for being an economic reductionist, Gramscian understanding also has economic reductionism inbuilt. Not as much, but it is still there. And again, like we said, he let's say, emphasizes superstructure, right? And he takes every factor contributing to a hegemony, which means it is very difficult. If everything is contributing to hegemony, then how much one factor is contributing, it is very difficult to determine. So what he does is he over-analyzes and oversimplifies the hegemony. Okay? So again, when you read it, you will get to know. My point is that you have to break down, for example, your syllabus into parts. Be clear with the timelines. And always remember, if it will take you 4 months, you give yourself 5 months. Right? Again, Rome was not built in a day. When you try to actually make good notes, etc., it will take some time. And this is the tougher part which most of you want to avoid, right? So again, coming back, I hope foundation say alignment of PYQ, having the short notes, and this revision part can be then worked. If you have short notes, this makes your work easy. And notes mein hona kya chahiye? The keywords, things you're likely to forget. Now, if you know historical materialism is a keyword, but if you know how to explain that, don't add it to your short notes. Only mention historical materialism, mention dialectical materialism. Right? For example, how many of you read about Marxist theory of alienation? In how many levels? 4 levels alienation operates. I just need to know 4 keywords from the process, from the product, from the society, etc. If I just have that in my notes, will I be able to recall it? Yes. If not, then add the other points. That is why I am saying notes will always be customized to yourself. Right? And that is what, and you have to be willing to put in that work. Don't shy away. Agar aap bologe, everybody will say, sir, I want to get 300 marks in the optional. Then put some efforts also for that. Merely doing the classes, again, I'm saying is not enough. Because after that, you have to do synthesis. Now, if you have done the alignment of PYQ, and by the way, PYQ alignment is not yet answer writing. After short notes, banai revision. So again, now in your answer writing, what you can do? Again, the people who don't want to join anything, etc. Simple hai, PYQ likho. And judge the PYQs first at your end. Second, maybe topper copies. Third, if you don't want any assistance, you can even use some AI and get it evaluated. There may be some discrepancies here and there, but largely speaking, you may get an idea. Second, if you feel that you want more diversity of practice, then you may consider test series, because I know the audience I'm speaking to will have a mix of both. Some people who want to do it by self. So my strategy here is considering that part also. If you want to do it by self, you can go through the PYQs, structure it accordingly, and then your job is done. Fine. Now, just to give you, and for example, I just will show you, because just before this class, I was having a class of optional only. So I'll just show you how this can be done. For example, in paper 2B, there's a topic, global centers of power. ठीक है, सुना हमने? It talks about US, China, Japan, Europe, right? All these countries. So for example, if I'm doing China, I should know what all questions have come first of all in China, right? In that sense, I can prepare an introduction, any book or course that I want to write about, okay? Now the boxes that are here is a way in which I make students write. These are the short notes that we prepare in the class. For example, friction points, SCS pe kya, Brahmaputra, OBOR, etc. This is just an indicative way. India, USA, what are the pillars of convergence? What is the defense foundation? Okay, what are the friction points? Are they allies or partners? This heading is coming because this question has been asked not once but twice. If I show you the PYQs, for example, just see the question of 2024. India and USA have become such strong strategic partners that they don't have to become formal allies. और सोचिए क्वेश्चन कितने मार्क का 15 marks. You have to fill 3 pages in this. and you will say कि I agree to the statement, yes, but yes से थोड़ी ना 15 नंबर मिलेंगे आपको. You have to explain it. And just notice the question of 2014. Do you agree USA willing to treat India as a partner rather than merely a camp follower? Are these two questions related? Absolutely. How do I get to know? Analysis of PYQs. Now, many times what will happen, you have done everything about India, USA. Sometimes in optional, sometimes you do over GS. अब सारे cooperation, BECA, COMCASA, LEMOA, everything, every small minute detail, you know, areas of cooperation. But maybe you have not done this dimension, you are not able to expand on it. So if you have relations, it will have security dimension, yes, strategic dimensions, various points of convergence, various points of divergence. And I'm saying this will help you limit your notes. Because IR में बहुत ज़्यादा chance होता है आपको diversify करने का. And sometimes you go out beyond and you're not able to write an answer. Right? I'll also show you one more question, because see, our idea is anybody who is here, you should always have a habit. अब देखो ये question पढ़ो एक बार. ये this is the question of 2025. How many of you know this term strategic autonomy? Just read this question, and this is a 20 marker, 20. India continues to invoke its time-tested policy of strategic autonomy vis-a-vis both US and Russia by rejecting US offer of mediation on Kashmir and refusing to criticize Russia in its ongoing war against Ukraine. Comment, 20 marks. This is also sometimes when you are in the beginning phase of your answer writing, you feel I know the content for 1.5 page, but I'll not be able to write 3.5 pages on this. Otherwise, I'll be repeating my points again and again. So how do I structure this? Which means even if I have notes on this topic, but you cannot expect every question to be in forms of notes, which is where your own understanding of the topic and your own structuring will also come to mind, right? इसीलिए again for paper 2 my advice is see the PYQs, and I'll tell you in the last 2 years, 2024, 2025, huge element of current affairs has been integrated. Current affairs are, let's say, there's a lot of current affairs that is there, which is why sometimes if your notes are very outdated and if you don't know how to link theory, okay, to current affairs, you will struggle to write an answer. Otherwise, you'll only feel good. Achha, I know what is IR, what is going on. But if you look at the paper, you'll not be able to write. So one thing also is to have honesty into knowing whether we actually know the demands in and out or not. Correct? Now, coming back. I hope, are we clear on this? And when you write, please make sure you have some patience. Right? Writing for GS, those who have done the GS also would have taken some time. It is not as easy. And optional mein you are dealing with 4 different sections having different demands. Answer writing for 2B is different from 1A. And many people which I meet are generally comfortable in 1A. But jahan 1A se gaadi 1B pe jati hai, thodi, the heartbeat raises. And mostly when it comes to paper 2, because the huge element of current affairs is there. And sometimes maybe you've not done some topic as well as they should have been done. That creates a challenge. देखो, answer writing again remember is not a science, direct science. कि भाई some rocket science is there. Generally speaking, if I know a topic, I'll be able to write it. If I don't know a topic, I'll not be able to write it. Of course, if I am very good with structuring, I may be able to make some sense. But of course, for topics which I don't understand, will I be able to write? Not really. So even when you are utilizing the last, let's say the 5 months, and 5 months are good enough, you should be able to bring these points together. Are we getting or making some sense? Okay. Now this you can do again, like I've told you, you can do it at your own end, but make sure you keep a timeline so that you don't digress, right? Are we clear on the steps that I've discussed with you? क्या क्या steps हैं हमारे? Foundation notes को हमें क्या करना है? Make it PYQ aligned, shorten it. How would you do it? I've just given you 2 ways to do it. One is either make a mind map or make linear notes. You can, then this will help you in revision. After revision, you go through the answer writing part, right? Wherein either you do the PYQs of those topics. And again, remember, I'm not asking that until you write every PYQ you are done. No. Some PYQs, if you have written them well in your notes, and if you're confident you are able to replicate it, usko maan lo wo ho gaya. Right? If I know, for example, Hobbes में question है, right? That for example anything that Hobbes state of nature, nasty, poor, brutish, short, something like this. If I know how to write that, I'll be confident. It is there in my notes, not very difficult. But let's say there's a question of Hannah Arendt's banality of evil, and the question says link it to the contemporary world. Now, if I don't know the current examples, I will be struggling to write that. Question, for example, this year, this is a highly expected question, Gen Z protests. Gen Z protests is not limited to India. You are seeing this globally happening. Gen Z protest is under which topic of the syllabus? Social movements. Social movement is also in paper 1B and social movement is also there in paper 2A. Last year you saw a question on lipstick, red lipstick. Sometime back a question had come on LGBTQ plus movement. A similar question can be Gen Z movements. Last year again we had a question, differentiate new social movements with old social movements. Right? So that will again help you do that. Now, coming back, some other points now I will have a look at. Okay, so I'll be just concluding this now. Okay, I think some of the students are also waiting. Now, some points we will talk about. Very first point is linkage of current affairs. Okay, how can I link the current affairs? I should know the current affairs. Okay, इसके लिए I'll just give you a small homework. You just search on Sunya site PSIR CA. There's a lecture one I have taken. I think around 4 or 5 current affairs topics I've done in a lot of detail. At least see that and it will give you clarity, okay, on how the topic is to be done. Okay, paper 2A ke linkages and etc. So how to link the current affairs is again through hit and trial and practice. Don't, for example, some people have this habit of forcefully adding current affairs. Let's say Plato padha unhone. Plato mein deliberately they'll make a point that Plato is linked to Indian constitution. It may not be correct. Rawls you can make a connection. Mill, for example, you can make, but not everywhere you will have a linkage. Some topics will have a current affair, like we discussed neoliberal theory of state. I can link it to what is happening in the 21st century, but not every topic. So this you will have to have a practice of. Then recalling of every scholar that is there. ठीक है आपका question. This, see, interest and memory go hand in hand. Okay, let's say if you're a fan of cricket, you remember the names of IPL teams, their composition, everything. Somebody will say, यार आपको इतने नाम कैसे याद होते हैं? Here also, if you are making compact notes, if you're doing something again and again, reinforcement, repetition, again and again. So out of, let's say there are 100 scholars, at least 20 you will remember, 30 you will remember, 40 you will remember. So we are starting from base 0 and we are leveling up. And when you finally give your mains, then you should have a good arsenal so that you're able to differentiate your points. For example, if you're writing a question on caste, then you can mention M.N. Srinivas, Louis Dumont, Rajni Kothari, for example. Yes. So that is again something that can be done, right? So that is there. So recalling is a function of time and your effort, right? थोड़ा सा involvement चाहिए इसमें. It will get good with time. Consolidation of notes, अभी हमने समझा. This is something that you can do. Bring everything at one place, and that will be helpful, right? Coverage of syllabus. You have to print out the syllabus 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, and one by one you have to look into it. Okay. Then the dimensions of answer writing. For example, did you see the 5C framework? And again, in many questions, mainly have I addressed the criticism? Even that is a point I can talk about. Okay. अच्छा. Now, so answer writing dimensions, I think I have spoken about. I think somebody also spoke about articulation. Okay. Now, articulation is something that will take some time. Okay. And articulation is about, let's say, the clarity. Right. And this clarity, the people who are joining is, please don't make a noise. I'm just concluding my session. Okay, you can just sit down. So this will depend on, for example, the question is, let's say, the clarity of expression, right? So in case those of you who are writing this, look at one stage. For example, look at the introduction. How can you improve it? Okay. Let's say the body, how can that be done? So even that can be taken care of. Okay. I think there are some topics such as people who are just coming in, just 1 second. Please इनको बोल देना. So please, you can just sit down. ठीक है, तो the session is just about to end. I think you will have your class very shortly. Now, I think there were some questions on. बैठ जाओ. The people who have just joined in, you can just sit down. ठीक है, I'm concluding the session. हाँ. For example, let's say the question was 1B, polity, etc., or comparative politics, on the sections that you are not aware of. Okay. Either look for a source. One very good source is IGNU, which you can refer. See the PYQs are the dimensional coverage that is there. If you want any assistance from my side or maybe notes which we share in the class for any specific topic, you can be connected. That can also be done. 9th point, which is on revision. Okay. Ab revision mein what is important, I think some of you mentioned, is, for example, you should have goals. Okay. So let's say 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B. Okay. Ab revision mein, if you have made your short notes, then your job gets easier. Okay. So this is again a function of time. So you can have your revisions better. But revisions cannot automatically happen unless you have done the hard work of consolidating. Okay. Other people who have joined in, you may have your other optionals. A common doubt here which I'm discussing with the students here is how to do revisions better. So I think some of you, I think, would have made, किसने optional short notes बनाए हैं अपने, जो लोग बैठे हैं यहाँ पे कुछ लोग, some of you have made short notes. Those who have not made it yet, again I've said, either take a reference of topper copies, okay, some of the notes that they've shared, try to do it, okay, and with this your confidence will also increase, right? How to do that? We've had a live demo just very recently. Framing and writing, I think I've already discussed this. Okay. Okay, this one question we discussed, neoliberal theory of state, liberalism and the challenges the ideology faces. Okay, 2 more questions are remaining. Weekly and daily, this is actually more applicable to somebody who has already made short notes, for example. Now, daily answer writing, if you're doing, and let's say you're doing 1 or 2 questions a day, does not harm. But you should not limit yourself only to the question, you should see the structure. When you have limited, see, 1 question writing, everybody can do here. ठीक है, आपका जो भी optional हो. If you have done that topic, you write and then you see whether you are able to cover the dimensions. If not, do it in the next question, next question, next question. So through repetition and iteration means again and again, you will get better at it. Weekly, or let's say a fuller test or a sectional test, you should do after you have some confidence. Let's say you have done WPT and directly if you jump to a test, 3-hour test, 1.5 hour test, you may feel very underconfident because you have not written at least 1 or 2 few answers, right? And the way to good answer writing applicable for GS as well as optional is you need to write 100, 150 bad answers, right? And you should celebrate writing bad answers starting में. How many of you listen to songs of Ed Sheeran? सुना है? Ed Sheeran का नाम तो सुना होगा, right? If you look at his speech and things about success, he also talks about 10,000 hour rule. What is 10,000 hour rule? If you spend a lot of hours on one task, you will get better at it. Okay. Here also, if you write a lot of answers, initial answers may not be as well, but over a period of time, it will get better. And this is something that you should be strong enough and have a thick skin that you are able to tolerate your bad answers. आपको नहीं लगना चाहिए यार, who has written this and I'm not good enough, and then you abandon the art of the writing process. In optional, this is needed. I think I've been able to answer you. I cannot give you a fixed number. What is the exact, formulation of daily versus weekly? First point is go for consolidation of your notes. Second, if possible, daily. Okay, later on, and if not, maybe try to write small actions of answer writing will help you, nudge you. Last point on para and heading is preferably in paper 1A and paper 2A of our optional. People go for conventional paragraphs, shorter paragraphs, 3 to 5 lines, that is okay. But for 1B and 2B, because it has multiple dimensions, you can use headings, subheadings to structure your answer. जैसे question आता है, for example, if the question is 2B में Indian foreign policy, non-alignment, strategic autonomy, 3 or 4 keywords are there. to give examples and theories to that, I can make use of headings and subheadings, which in the recent past many toppers are also doing. Idea is, see, purely by writing a heading, you will not get a mark or your marks will be cut. We write headings and subheadings simply to show how structured our points are and how relevant is it to the demand of the question. Fine. So that is something that you can take a look at and go for. Fine. People online, I think I've taken most of the doubts. ठीक है, अब अगर if I'm not have been able to answer any doubts, please drop a comment in the YouTube section. Second thing is, I've asked people with PSIR optional to do a couple of things. One is, please see the PSIR current affairs class. It will give you a lot of clarity. First task. Second is, see the PYQ analysis I have taken of 2025. Both paper 1 and paper 2 will tell you the range of questions that you have to deal with. Third is IPT, entire IPT and entire WPT, Western Political Thought. I've covered in one go. These are long classes, around 10 hours each. With the handout, even the handout is available on the website. Even if you have not joined the course, you can do that. Try to do this. It will give you some clarity on how to approach the optional, and it will nudge you to start the optional in a proper time sense. If you do this, you can be connected to me. The people who are watching this, this is the official number in case you want to discuss. Okay, my name is Amratansh, and this is the official number on which you can drop me a message. But at least do this part on your side. Okay, and this will tell you WPT. Again, I have a structure. I'll talk about the introduction of a thinker. Okay, let's say Mill, introduction, some book and quotes, some key ideas of his criticism, and let's say the conclusion. If you do this, okay, and if you're aligned, you can again go forward. Again, the people who want to do it totally at their own end can also do so. If you have any inputs from my side, you can take a look at. Okay. So we'll have to end the session here. I think other students are also waiting, and like sometimes happens that time sometimes feels short. Okay. So sir is also here. So sir will now be addressing you. Okay. So I think people on it, if there's any doubt remaining from my side, you can just drop a text. I'll be replying to the comments that are there. Okay. Thank you so much. And people offline also, I think you've made a note of what we have discussed. If there is an issue, you can let me know.